show. How's it going, Terry? Uh-oh.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. How you doing, mate? Yeah.
We're actually on. All right, good.
Yeah, we're live, and I don't know if...
I'm a bit nervous, but...
No, that's fine. You know what? Sit back, take a breath, relax. We're here, and think of...
All right, I'm just waiting for the ETs to turn up, as I said.
Think of
I have to
Masterpiece
sort of,
Theater.
go for a couple of minutes, you know why. Huh?
Excuse me. I said, think of Masterpiece Theater, sitting in front of a nice fireplace in a nice, comfy, regal-like chair, just relaxing, having a cup of tea. A spot of tea, as you guys might say.
I've never done this kind of thing before. I mean, really, it's just like having a phone conversation, except everyone listening in, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes, and if you just forget that there's anybody else listening, it's just a phone conversation.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Terry, I want to thank you very much for being here with us today. You reached out to me a handful of weeks ago, and we've had some time to sit and talk about the material that we're going to discuss today. And I have to say right off the bat, what you are going to mention and present is absolutely fascinating in respect to, what I had mentioned in the intro here, but also if what you're saying is true, okay, and this is an ability, and we'll get into that ability in just a moment. If this ability is something that we all have, how does that influence our paranormal investigations and perhaps some of the other play that we've had in the field of electronics involving that sort of phenomenon? So, Terry, I'd like to start you from a beginning point, let's say. Okay, so first, before we get into this, can you tell us a little bit about mind voicing EVP and what that means to you, and perhaps what that might mean in terms of implications for our field?
Okay. So, I mean, really, it goes back to when I discovered this. I mean, just like anyone else, I was, who would come across the same thing. If they was doing it, I was like shocked. I'm, really taken aback by it. But it seems to be something to do. I mean, the way I define it is ectoplasm, and of course, most people would think the first thing they're going to think of is Ghostbusters and all of that. But actually, if you look into the subject, tectonic force and that kind of thing, that there's actually quite a lot of data about how the phenomena appears. So when you say ectoplasm to people, they may think it's something that you see. It's the first thing that you think of. Ectoplasm coming out of someone. Like
something
with the pictures
visual,
you
right?
see. Yeah, visual. But actually, when you look into it, it can be vapor. It can be invisible. It can have effects like conducive to EVP, conducive to that. So the subject of ectoplasm covers a whole many different types of phenomena. So basically, I mean, I'm still, even after 2 years, and I've got mountains of notes, but I'm still working out what it is, how it works, from a scientific kind of standpoint as best I can. As much as the guys who, first coined the word ectoplasm for what they were seeing. So what it means to me, and it's really strange because it's like your thoughts can actually make words. So it's like, usually we're thinking sound waves, like coming from our throat. So we know how that would actually make words and forms, if you like. But there's actually another kind, which is like with our thoughts, which is known as thought forms. And it seems to be that with ectoplasm, that it's kind of, when people say about mimicking spirits, well, ectoplasm is kind of, between spirits and the living, if you like. And it's kind of where it's semi-sentient, as I like to say. So it does the work for you. So it could be, I mean, I don't know, but it could be that, but it's something that's getting the gist of what you're saying and it's forming that for you. Or it could be really, as I like to think of it, where it's your aura that's vibrating. So just the same as where you get vibrations in the air that where you can hear sound. It's the same kind of thing, but it's very sophisticated, and it's something we haven't come across yet as a.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you, we understand the way sound moves through the air very simply. It's vibrating molecules, and of course, the duration of that vibration and the amplitude of that vibration can be determined, and we can actually play around, I think, in a very physical sense with what sound is, and frequencies and how they work within the air. Now, you're saying that there's a similar, or you believe there's a similar device in terms of approach when it comes to working with this on a telepathic level. Do you think that this has to do, is it simply something divided between a lower frequency okay, how do I want to put this here? So if you look at sound as a physical anomaly, okay, there's that end of it, okay? Is there another counterpart in a higher vibration, such as using
this
telepathy?
is it. I mean, yeah, this is what people are saying about ectoplasm or ectenic force. And it's so difficult. I mean, I can, from my side, I can only see what it does. And it's a bit like the early parapsychologists. They could only really see what it does, but actually how it works or what it is very, very difficult to define. So we can only go on, well, this is happening. And that's kind of similar to how, if you was to do a recording of someone speaking, a few meters away, it would record some sound, and this is doing the same thing. Yeah, it's really strange, because when you're actually mind voicing, there's a lot of different ways that will be recorded. So sometimes there's a slight delay. Sometimes even you'll notice that spirits will add on to what you're saying, so they're using your sound forms or your energy, if you like. But really, I suppose you've got to look at it in a spiritual way, where there's an intelligence to the earth. This is how we're the nature's around us and things like that, and we don't exactly measure every detail of that, yet we know it's there. We can see it. There's forms there, so that it's almost like archetypes. So where you're mind voicing, the archetype of the word or what you're looking at is being formed. So it's like a natural thing, but how it actually works. So it's kind of natural, but it's not natural to us. It's supernatural. It would be similar, like if you showed someone a phone years ago, they'd be like, well, how can that possibly work? You'd have to go right through it, and they wouldn't understand, but they'd get the general kind of idea. And that's kind of where I am and others are with ectoplasm. And I use that word because that's the best kind of way to describe it. But really, just like everyone else, I'm like, what is it? I've got loads and loads of mountains of notes, but I can only really sort of say about the effects of what the phenomena is. And what it is basically, I will say a word or a sentence in my mind, and I'll focus somewhat, and when I play back, there it is. Or you've heard, or anyone who's looked at the application I use, which is it's actually more like an EVP recorder, but it doesn't have a recorder as such. It's basically recording EVP, as in there's no mic. There is a mic function, but I don't use that.
Okay.
But it's kind of like, I mean, as I say, it's just something where, I'm able to do it. So I'm like everyone else. I'm like, how is this happening? What is making this work? But there's certain clues, like with the application I use. Can I say the name of the application, or is that, do you not want me to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the EVP shifter by Keith Weldon. I mean, he should get an award for that. The application, because he actually designs equipment for some of the TV shows, like the big TV shows on TV. But what he put in that was something called a comb filter. So that comb filtering is something like resonance. So where there's a comb filter in it, it really develops the sound. So it draws out the the really, it's almost like the mind voice is going into white noise, which
Hmm.
the comb filtering is providing within the app, and then that is being developed from there, so you can hear what's being transferred to the app a lot louder, so it really develops it. And it's the same thing when I do a recording with just a normal digital recorder. I usually use white noise. Now, you can use the same devices where there's no white noise at all, and you will hear very faintly the same mind voice words and you know what's being said. But white noise tends to sort of bring out the sound, and that's what comb filtering is. Because basically, comb filtering is like if you've got two speakers too close together, it causes some sort of resonance, and a lot of people try to avoid that. But actually, with EVP, a lot of people say about white noise, so they actually look for that. It's the opposite.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, he's put comb filtering into the application. He even says with his application, though it looks quite basic, there's a lot going on under the hood in the description on YouTube, and there is, for sure. He knows his stuff. He's really, really good at making these applications. And so, yeah, so it's almost like I'm imprinting to the application. So there's no mic. I'm not speaking into it or anything like that.
Hmm.
I'm not saying anything beforehand. I'm not shouting out any words and then you know switching the application on. It's just silence. I'll just look at the words that I want to say. That helps with focus, I suppose. But actually, I put that there so people know what's about to be said. It's not queuing. It's actually so people know, right, this application is about to say this
Well,
before he's even switched it on.
out of
Mm.
curiosity, Terry, do you find it easier to exercise this sort of practice with a device that has a word bank versus perhaps a device that it's more static and doesn't have that sort of cache behind it?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, people have said about the Obelisk device. I,
Hmm.
well, I've not had a chance to try with that, but I think really it's more like where you're imprinting to the application, and then the application is developing that sound. I mean, but there's so many strange things about it because, like with sound banks, how is it managing to configure the sound banks? I mean, people say this with live radio,
Right.
spirit boxes. How is it managing to actually get that part of what someone said and marry it to that part, and then with the three different stations that you hear over 5 seconds, you've got a coherent sentence. So
Right.
how is that working?
It should be
Um,
inert until there is a catalyst, which would be, any impetus
well,
in
it
the way of
shouldn't.
energy, right?
It shouldn't happen. I mean, by rights, this is why people dismiss it straight away. It's like, it's impossible. But when you look at the underlying reality of Earth, there seems to be a coordinating um, effect,
Hmm.
via ectoplasm, or like what we see in nature. We're not all just walking around stardust. We're actually physically formed. I mean, I even thought, is it something to do with the Higgs boson? Because the Higgs boson is like is the glue of the universe. But of course, the universe is sentient because we know we are. So therefore, there's parts of the universe it is, and we know we can think logically and things like that.
Hmm.
So there seems to be a governing principle within nature. I mean, I'll say ectoplasm, um, just so people can get their head around it. That seems to be coordinating um, things, obviously beyond what we can see. I mean, we call that Mother Nature. So when a
Well,
spirit, say,
just before,
sorry,
I don't mean to interrupt you,
yeah,
but as we go,
no
I'm going to
problem.
kind of interject these couple questions just for clarity.
Yeah, sure.
So, if I understand you correctly, you're saying or suggesting that ectoplasm may be the medium in which allows us to make this sort of connection with the devices, or am I understanding that correctly?
It could be. I mean, when I've done mind voicing before, I think there's two forms. There's one where it's distant, and I've done that before, miles away. But there's also another form, just like we have different frames of mind and things like that. There's another type where, for example, I could record a mind voice recording, and it will start to get fainter about 17 feet away. So basically, I've been in the living room here. I've left a device going, and I will. So it's recording, and I'll go into the bathroom. So that's about 17 foot away, like that. I've closed 2 doors, closed the passage door, closed the bathroom door. Mind voice from there, and you can still hear the mind voice. So I tend to say zesty words. You know, if it's on a digital recorder, so I can hear it better, like witchcraft or, you know, zigzag or something like that. So anyway, I've done that, tested it out loads and loads. I mean, I've been with this for like 2 years now.
Okay.
And sure enough, there it is, but it's more fainter. Yet when you come back, you know, into the room and you do another one, it's louder. And yet saying that, I've done distance, as I say, with a different focus and a different frame of mind, where I've managed to, you know, over long distance, you know, project my thoughts there. And I'm sorry if this is all a bit garbled. As I say, I'm sort of waiting for someone to arrive and everything.
Nope,
I'm
it's
sort of
fine.
thinking
It's fine,
about
my
them and
friend.
all. So
You
it's
know, of
sort
course,
of,
you know, while we're listening to you talk about this, and this is a very intricate subject. Obviously, there are many different corners to cover before fully understanding, I think, the concept that you're putting in front. But just to make it a little bit more simplified for some of our listeners, can you give me in maybe 2 or 3 sentences exactly what it is that you do, with the least technical talk that you and I would perhaps share, just to kind of really give some clarity to your ability with this?
what I do, what the process is of doing a recording.
So are you sitting in another room and you're thinking of a word or a phrase, and that is being captured on a device in another room? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's just like if you was to do it, you know, you have, if you was to say, I mean, I went to a spiritualist church once, and there was a person, and they were saying about how do people see spirits. Well, I'm sitting here, and I know I could imagine a wardrobe right in front of me. I could see it. I can see it now in every detail. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Some people don't have very good visual memories. I mean, I've been into artwork, you know, oil paintings, music for a long time, so I tend to think in that way. Um, but as I said to this person, can you see the wardrobe in front of you? And then I said, you know, and what color is it, and what design? And she could say, and I said, well, that's what it's like seeing spirits. So it's the same thing when we think a word in our minds. So basically, all I'm doing is either thinking a word in my mind, or if someone wanted to practice at this and they're not very good at, you know, concentration in that way, not very focused. I mean, bear in mind, I'm a guitar player, so I'm used to sort of going with the flow and you know, hearing what's going to come next, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, but they could just look at some words or a word like Coca-Cola or something like that, and without, you know, I think one of the misconceptions with telepathy is, you know, you see these pictures and someone's got their closed fists to their head and all of that. It's not like that. You know, all you need to do is just really gently think the word. Actually, it's better the more gentle it is.
Hmm.
You know, think the word and then see if you've got a recording there.
So
And I think, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
on.
I'm sorry.
No, I think there's kind of a tuning in kind of phase as well, where you do have to be. I mean, because I found it's got stronger over time, but you have to be good at hearing EVP. If you're one of these sorts of people, even when it's a really, you know, you see really strong EVPs on YouTube, and then you get the comments, "Oh, I can't hear anything." It's like, well, you want to take the corks out your ears because, you know, it's there or there's something there. You're just not trying, you know. But if you're genuine about it and you're really like, you know, you know, I can hear something there. It's a bit like when one of the experiments I did years ago, probably about 3 or 4 years, was an experiment, I suppose everyone tries, is when you can hear very faint voices in white noise. So you could just get an app and it could be, you know, white noise, and you can hear something, you know, really sort of muffled, and it's in a distance. It sounds like voices. So it was kind of like that, but it got stronger. But when I actually very first discovered mind voice, straight away it was strong. But because of my training, if you can call it that, in hearing very faint um, EVP or what sounds like voices within white noise, it
Hmm.
really helped me to sort of focus in. So where I could hear very faint, say EVP, mind voice EVP, I was almost sort of like tuning into. It's almost like having a satellite dish and carefully sort of like being able to focus it, and bang, I found the frequency, and that's it, I'm on it. And from that time I could sort of really pump it up, and you know, it's almost, yeah, like, as I say, finding the frequency, and that's it. I could, you know, develop the power of that particular frequency, if you like.
Well, let's talk a little bit about EVPs very quickly, because there are some people out there that would argue EVPs are akin to what we might consider sort of a mental pareidolia. You know, when we see some of these ghost hunting shows, just to kind of give this as an example, they'll come out with an EVP that says, my name is Jill, okay? And all four investigators will sit there and hear something different. Okay.
Can you just give me a color? The
Yeah, of
ETs
course.
have arrived.
Of course.
Hold on.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll hold that question. All right. Yeah, this is very interesting, guys. I mean, I understand that there's a lot here, and I was expecting this to be somewhat convoluted, and, you know, doing my best to get some clarity, even for myself on this, because these are incredible claims. And if this is what it is, you know what I mean? This is very incredible, to say the least. Thank you very much, Long Island Bigfoot. Take the moment to shout you out as my first donator on the Super Chat Super Sticker. $3. Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it. As you know, and you know very well, every bit of it goes back into the show. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. You can't see me because it's a radio show, Rich. Hey, you wanna see my room without the backdrop? Huh? You want a little peek? Huh? Hey, how you doing? Camera's not even lined up. Look at this. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, it's great. I need to clean a bit. There's something up with that couch too. It's floating there still. All right, back to the show. I didn't do GUFON, to answer your question. I usually try to mirror what the guest is doing. I didn't want to be an overwhelming presence with the visual when he was just of audio. So, hello. Did your Chinese food come?
Yeah.
Very good.
I didn't have time to give the guy a tip.
All right, so
he's all like, oh, and went.
Yeah, let me throw this question back out at you now that you're sitting down again. All right, so again,
I feel a lot better now. Having that in the background, waiting for that. Honestly, they took so long. Any other time, it's 45 minutes. This time, well, it's been nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, at least, man. I think that you mentioned that some time ago. But all right,
typical, isn't it? Yeah.
So coming back to the topic at hand here, I'll kind of jump into that question again. What would you say to people who? Okay, no, that's not how I started. All right, so in the world of ghost hunting and, you know, EVP captures and so forth, there are many people who would argue that, you know, EVPs are really a mental pareidolia of sort, wherein you can have a group of people who are listening to the same EVP, and we're each guessing what we think it sounds like. And, you know, any example could suffice, at least for this, in respect to everyone having a different perception of what they think they're hearing. And then eventually they come to a consensus and say, all right, it sounds like my name is Jill, and we're going to go with that. So what would you say to people who feel that EVPs as a whole are a more nebulous endeavor to kind of study, and perhaps more due to interpretation rather than, you know, sound fact here?
Right. So it's like modern art. You know, you take some people into the Tate Modern Art Gallery and they'll be like, what's this? You know, they won't see anything in it. And some people will be, oh, that's great. So it's a bit like that. But the point what you're making, you know, when you get those pictures, and if you've got it one way, I've actually got, I wrote something about this. I can't remember what they're called now, it was ages ago. You know, you look at the picture one way, and then you turn it upside down and it's something else. It's like, oh, where did that come from? Well, that is a bit like what you just mentioned there. And I've actually called that, I term that high-end level pareidolia. So help, you know, and just so it's easier to remember. And high-end level pareidolia is basically where, although it's pareidolia, so you could have a recording. And this goes back to actually like where some people see a UFO and the other person right next to them doesn't. And then there might be another person. It's like, well, I see a different color. Yeah, you know, two people did actually see something, but they're interpreting it in different ways. And that's how our minds work. With high-end level pareidolia, you could have a recording, an EVP, and there might be a message in it for one person. they're hearing a certain thing, and then there's a message in it, sorry, a different message for someone else. People have had EVPs where it said one thing played forwards, and then you play it, you know, in reverse, and it's saying something else. So it seems to be like a when you say nebulous, it's a bit like where, you know, the film The Thing, where, you know, it turns into, it morphs into, well, I don't really want to say, you know, associate that with ETs or spirits or anything like that, or even ectoplasm, because that's a horror film.
Great
But
movie.
it's kind of one of those things where it can pick up all these different things and represent it. So it's something like what you'd get in modern art, like with Cubism, with Picasso. So you'd have the if it was a sculpture, say, it would look different from different angles. So someone might buy a Picasso and they'll have it at one angle, and then they'll sell it, and the next person who gets it says, well, I don't like that angle, and put it at another angle. So it's almost like a different sculpture if it's, you know, cubist. And that's what cubism was about. And it's kind of similar when people say about pareidolia. Now, there is pareidolia where you see it on YouTube a lot, and people are saying there's something there, and it really isn't. So that's kind of low end pareidolia where they really are mistaken. But then there's sometimes when you get high end, as like, you know, like a motor or something, high end level pareidolia, where you can get different interpretations. As I say, you can play the EVP in reverse and it might say something else. I mean, I don't do that, but I've definitely had EVPs where I've listened to the EVP, and then, sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you again,
That
but
was my phone overheating. Yeah.
do you think
another
that,
issue?
you know, we've looked at in the past in history, especially musical history, Beatles being at the forefront, I think, of this phenomenon where people were playing their music backwards and, you know, pulling different messages out of the lyrics that were, again, you know, played backwards. Do you think that there's any validity to this in respect to listening to EVPs? And if so, what would inspire any sort of energy source or entity, in your opinion, to give us something that we needed to play backwards in order to understand?
Why would they do that? Well, it's almost like it's like intention. And I'd say these are like cubism archetypes, if you like. So it can mean different things to different people. As I say, like when you go to the Tate Modern Art Gallery or wherever, somewhere like that, you know, there isn't a label underneath it saying this is what this means. You know, it's usually open, like freestyle, if you
Right,
like.
intuitive interpretation, then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think spirits. I mean, you could have the same EVP, and you could have 4 or 5 different spirits coming through on that EVP. I mean, that happens on the EVP shifter as well when I use that. But it just so happens where I must be like a physical medium or something. I ain't saying that boasting. I'm just saying I would think that about anyone else if they could do what I could do. But if someone or a spirit is stronger, they will have prominence in that EVP, and the spirits that are less so will have less prominence. So you'll have to sort of, they might, it's not like they're deciding, like they're sitting there or standing there thinking, I'll do this in reverse or something like that. It just
Okay.
happens that way because the
Okay.
ectoplasm is like the middleman and work that out. So it's all kind of like, you know, when people say there's signs around the home and things like that, yeah, all that's real. That's like synchronicity. But the thing that's working it all out, you could say, so we can understand it rather than saying ectoplasm, is like a super quantum computer that's configuring all this stuff together for people to put together after it. And that's really what the Earth is like. It's, to us, it's like not really like a computer, but it's like a living thing that's, you know, a powerful mind that can do all of that. We're only just, you know, looking into that sort of stuff now. So yeah, you can definitely get EVPs, and there's 2 messages. I mean, I've heard them myself. I've had EVPs where I might have mind voice witchcraft, and then also I can hear something else that's actually using, say, witch, and then putting it you know, with something else and it's saying another word. So it's a bit like, again, like when I say those pictures, what you could turn upside down and it's something else. So therefore that is a matter of interpretation. But when you get to the level that I'm at, where I can do really strong imprintation of EVPs, there's no mistaking it. You can really hear it. And the only trouble I've had, say, with the EVP shifter is it's actually built to sound like that for some reason, whatever reason.
Well, one of the
So
things that really caught
that's a
my,
lot of
sorry,
limitation
go
on
ahead.
my part.
I thought you were done. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. No problem.
No, no. Okay, so I was going to ask you, because one of the things that really caught my ear when I first started talking to you is that as you were describing this procedure, it was something that you mentioned that you can't really just do 50% of the time. It's not like you can do it 60%. You mentioned that you could do this nearly every time and produce a result. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that, but also about where you started with this in respect to how you discovered that you were able to do that, because I thought that was a pretty interesting story. And it seemed like you sort of stumbled upon this, realized that there was this kernel there, and then focused on that to grow it into what you're able to do today. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And just to say to any listeners, you know, I do apologize. It's just everything's been, you know, chaotic, and it just caught me out. So that's why it's maybe a bit all over the place. And I'm not used to doing radio interviews. But anyway, so yeah, I've been into EVP for, well, must be about 6 years now. And, you know, getting all the apps and all of that, you know, stuff on eBay, you know, the live ghost box radios and all of that. But one of the things I really, you know, wanted was a DR60. And of course, I don't know if you know about them, but they're about, you know, up to £2,000. Well, so that's out the window for now. And so I was putting all these different things together. I mean, for example, now I've got an infrasound mic that picks up, you know, infrasounds that you can't normally hear. You know, different pieces. And I also worked out, because I have a with my phone, I've gotten a really great to have. They're like an adapter. They're called a splitter. So you could basically plug a mic into your phone. You plug it into the top of your phone where your headphones go, and you can plug a mic in, and you can plug headphones in on the other port there. So it's like a fork kind of thing. And so that allowed me to sort of boost my recording apps up and different things like that. And also I sort of learned how to get two apps working at the same time, all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, that was that. So I've been experimenting with all these different things, trying to find something that was similar to a DR60 sound, you know, where I got a frequency app which blocked out some frequency. So you got a lot of crackling, and got that going with an EVP recorder app at the same time, two running at the same time. See if I could get that DR60 kind of, you know, where it's bringing out that crackly sound, as you know, the sound that people were used to with a DR60. One of the things I'm so glad I never deleted it. I had this app, yeah, and it's an infrasound app. And so what it is, you've got, if you could just imagine, there's three buttons. It's very basic. There's three buttons. Is that there's one to hear ultra frequencies, so you could record with that. It's a recording app.
Okay.
And you'd hear, if you've got the TV on, you'd hear that, you know.
Ultra frequencies, you said?
Yeah.
Can you describe what that is a little bit?
Well, just like you can hear ultrasonic, you can't hear actually ultrasonic sound while the TV's on. But if you was to use this app and record, you'd actually hear that sound.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So you've got that, and this is made by I think it was a NASA guy, or he's worked for the government or something like that. But it's a very basic app. It's not like he made it to be all sophisticated, but that is the story with this app anyway. So you've got that. So that's the top button, and then the bottom is infrasound, and that comes out really, you know, really crackly, like, you know, you can't really hear anything. And then there's a button in the middle for just normal recording. So that's meant to be just a normal record. So you got the top, which is ultrasound, ultrasonic sound, so you can hear the TV. You got the bottom one, you know, right at the end for infrasound, and then you've got the normal recorder. So anyway, I started using the normal recorder because although it's well, say normal recorder, what it's actually doing is it's almost between a normal recorder and infrasound. So unlike if you used to get the recorder on your phone and was to record on that, sorry, I'm just looking at my battery going down on this as we talk. It's not going up, so it's taking a lot of energy. Just so you know, so it's at 17.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, the recorder is not like what you'd get on your phone where it just comes out clear. It dips into infrasound. So anyway, I was thought, oh, I haven't used this. I thought, have I actually used this? You know, I plugged a mic into the top of it using the adapter that I've got. So instead of using, I probably tried it before, but I didn't have the adapter at that time, so I was just using the phone mic. But seeing as I had this adapter I just told you about by then, I thought, have I actually tried putting a plug-in mic into that? So anyway, I thought I probably still ain't you know, I probably don't have the application anymore. And so sorry, just watching this batteries going down has really put me off. I might just get cut off anyway. But anyway, so anyway, I've plugged the mic in and done some recordings, and I'm like, I can hear something, you know. So I've got a new mic with this application. Before it was just a phone mic, so that's probably why I left it. So I'm using a new mic, and I'm like, I can hear like voices in the background. So anyway, that went on all the night previous, say, to when I discovered Mind Voice. So, you know, could hear these voices. Next next day, sorry, I just saw that. The next day, I was walking around trying out the same thing, walking around the passage. So I didn't need white noise with this because it provides it itself. So I was just using a normal recorder, yet that was dipping into infrasound. You could hear crackling. So if I was to say, hey, hello, or something, you'd hear my voice, but it wouldn't be really clear. It'd have crackling in it. So it's like a normal recorder that's going into infrasound. So I was in the bedroom and a bus went past. And as this bus went past, I was already doing the recording. I was only doing short burst recording, like, you know, for 10 seconds or something like that. I got this really loud, I wouldn't say it wasn't a voice from it. It was like, you know, when you get a loud thought kind of thing, like you're thinking it yourself. And it was George Orwell. And so anyway, I thought, because it was so loud, I don't get them often. It was like really powerful, like George Orwell. It just sort of came to me. I thought, I wonder if that's on there. When I played it back, it was there. I couldn't believe it. I thought, that's actually there. And so I tried it out. You know, I came back into the living room, tried saying, you know, hiya and stuff like that. It was there again. And I was like, I just stood there, you know, with my mouth open. I just couldn't believe, you know, like most people, I was like, this is absolutely amazing. So that was it. I was up for like 48 hours non-stop, trying out all this stuff, really experimenting, making sure that I wasn't, you know, misinterpreting it or it wasn't pareidolia or something like that. So I was using, again, all these zesty words, you know, like zigzag or something like that, but it was coming out really clear. And that still to this day is one of my best applications that will, you know, recorder for EVP recorders.
Do you have any of the? I think you do have some of this recorded and available for people to see, possibly on YouTube or Facebook. Do you have anywhere that people might be able to reference some of these videos that you're talking about in being able to do this sort of thing?
Those actual ones is really difficult because all I've got is my phone. I mean, my friends have said to me, "You got to get a computer and all that," and it's like just getting the money together and getting around to doing it and everything like that. And I'm so busy doing other things anyway. And but where I've tried to get those recordings from that particular application onto you know, onto YouTube or something, the time it goes through, because with that application I have to put it through some speakers. I've got some little computer speakers, put it through that and then record it, so it you know, from the headphone socket from the
Right.
speakers. And by the time it goes through all of that, it's too distorted to go on to. I have actually recorded some, and they do need to go on YouTube. But if I was to do that with all the EVPs I do, I'd just have hundreds and hundreds on there. and I can do them, you know, because I can do those all the time. But those particular ones are quite difficult. So by the time it would actually get onto YouTube, so it's one of those things you really need to hear for yourself. So I was struggling with that. Like when I was doing EVP straight into a digital recorder, you know, by the time it got onto YouTube, people may have been struggling to hear it. I could hear it because I was used to looking out for what to listen for, you know.
Yeah.
But then once the EVP shifter came out, I got that. I wasn't expecting so much because I thought it was just a digital recorder thing, really, I suppose. But when I tried doing the same thing on that, it was so loud you couldn't miss it. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. You know, it's like straight onto YouTube, you know, posting it onto Facebook and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that was really good. So again, I was looking and I thought this is something to do with comb filtering. But the thing is, when you just do, I mean, I can hear, as I say, it's not just me that's mind voice, and I can hear spirits as well. But because I've been doing it for 2 years, it's a bit like if you take a motor into the garage, a mechanic, he'd be able to know what's wrong with the motor just by the sound of the engine, whereas most people won't. You know, they'd be like, oh, I didn't think it's like, yeah, it's something, this, that, and the other, because they're so used to working with that, they know what to listen out for. And it's like me when I do these, you know, mind voice onto digital recorder. I mean, they're very loud, but some people might struggle with it, whereas I'm so used to what to listen out for. As I say,
Sure.
when the EVP shifter came along, that was just, you know, amazing, because what it meant was that, you know, you could actually hear mind voice really, you know, very, very loud. So there was the evidence. So I'd put the you know, the note paper there. I know they're only very amateur videos, but I just haven't got the PC and all of that to start doing the editing. You know, making these big professional videos. So yeah, I'll just put the note paper there so people know what the application's about to say, as per from mind voicing.
Mhm.
And then a lot of the time I'll switch the recorder on, and the first thing it will say is what I've been, you know, imprinting towards the
Well,
application.
I'll propose this to you, and you can do with it what you like. We can talk about it off camera if you want. If you're able to capture these this phenomenon in any audio way, and are able to isolate the waveform enough to perhaps upload it to something, you could always send it to me, and I can go through a little audio processing, perhaps to clear that up if there's that issue of transference. And in addition, I was curious if you do have any waveforms in your bank somewhere that I might be able to analyze, because there's a lot that you can pull out of a frequency analysis chart in respect to, you know, the ultrasonic sounds and subsonic sounds and everything in between.
Well, I spoke to a guy called Tony Hayes from EVP UK,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually looks at free. I spoke to his colleague, you know, in his paranormal team. You know, spoke to her, and she must have said he sounds really nice, sounds legit. So I ended up talking to him, and he analysed some of the. This is on the digital recordings. I think I was using the infrasound mic. They're about £50. They're quite expensive, but they're good. They're just like plug-in mics. And he said after looking at it, he just got stuck on one EVP, wouldn't look at the others, you know, wanted to do everything like that, very strict. But he said he usually puts it through his computer sort of system, audio system, just because people have sent EVPs in and it's been, I don't know, animals, you know, in the distance like that. And he's seen the frequency and been able to say, look, it's this, that, and the other. It's not an EVP.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time, obviously. There's a lot of real EVPs that does happen. He said when he listened to mine, he said he's never seen frequency like it. He said straight away he knew it wasn't any animal or any, you know, mistake or anything like that. It was something that he'd not come across before. And he was calling me up a lot, and he was really excited about it. He was so strict, and he wasn't really into ETs and stuff like that. So that kind of, and he lived far away, and I wanted to go and visit and all of this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I think
Well,
he wanted to do, expected me to have, you know, the computer and everything and record everything I'm doing. I said, look, I'm a medium, and you know that's how I get in the zone and do it. If I don't want to every recording wanted photographs and stuff like that, so I don't really work like that. Then, you know.
Well, you would understand, of course, why somebody would be asking for, a more physical or tangible bit of evidence to sort of look through. I mean, personally, I know exactly where you're coming from in respect to the intuition, but I also understand from personal experience that sometimes it's not enough to not necessarily convince somebody else, but to allow them to feel comfortable enough to open the door to the possibility of something like this existing.
Oh, he was all for it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was all for it. He was ringing me up. So it was really exciting. The reason we fell out wasn't because, oh, there's nothing in it or anything like that. It was just one of that type of bloke. If you didn't do anything his way, it was highway kind of thing.
Oh,
And
yeah, sure.
so, but as I say, the what I've put out there is, really sufficient. You can see what the application is about. So you try to get anyone else to do that, or even EVPs as loud as that.
Well, we'll see if we can. Well, I was going to say, we'll see if we can get, together here and perhaps, get something out there in the respect of a waveform to just give people that are even listening today a little bit more to kind of chew on, because believe me, these folks are hungry and they want it all, my friend.
I'm really worried about this phone because it's gone down to 6% and it's going down. So I might have to go offline for 5 minutes and allow the phone to charge up. Will you be able to handle that?
All right. Let's see what we get when we get to that point. I don't have a problem doing that at all.
Yeah, but just carry on talking on my behalf.
Before we
crazy.
Before we go down that route, I wanted to bring up a quick question that somebody had asked in the chat. This question is from Frapsap, and he's asking, why does he stick to just audio and why not do video instrumental transcommunications?
I've tried doing that, and I've tried where you get, there's an app actually what's made by Keith Weldon, and it puts up all particles and all that. But the thing is, it doesn't seem to work. I think I've managed to get lines across the screen and stuff like that, but this seems to be more voice. So yeah, I thought of that myself. If I could do that, something people say seeing is believing. They tend to sort of go with that more than what they hear. That would be really good, but that didn't. Not sure if it's me. I just think that particular application sort of side of it needs to be worked on. I mean, if Keith was, or someone like him was to work with someone like me, then we could work on something like that. Say, look, try it this way. Oh, that's beginning to work. Let's do that. So yeah, I have tried that, and it has worked a little bit, but it's not like, what's that thing called? That robe with a picture of Jesus on it.
Oh, the Shroud of Turin, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would work like that, but you need the right kind of equipment. It just so happens the EVP shifter is good for sound, but the other application he's made was called Deadwave, I think, and it's got a visual ITC in it. It doesn't really, it's not really working so well with that. I mean, I would have loved it to, if you could project, images. Yeah, so this phone's gone down to 3%.
Okay.
2% now, so it's going to go off any moment. I mean, this is what a night this has been, eh? It's just non-stop
seriously,
for me at the moment.
It's just the way the energy is sometimes, and it's okay, my friend. Believe me.
Will you be able to carry on for 5 minutes? Or just charge the phone up and see how we get on? I don't know, but
not a problem.
Because it'll probably just cut out. So it's not me. Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Something like that. So that's what it's going to do. I can't understand why is it doing this. I've got my charger plugged in, but it's still going down.
Sometimes I notice that it might be the battery. No, sometimes I've noticed that I'm on the phone and I have it plugged in, and it's still using more energy than it's taking in.
But if you want to carry on for 5 minutes, shall I just, because it's going to go off any minute, and give it 5 minutes, and then I'll get back to you. Yeah.
All right, we'll be here.
You can answer some questions for me because I've spoken to you from the commenters. All right.
All right. Sounds good, brother. See you in a minute.
All right then. Speak in a moment.
Okay. All right, folks. Oh. All right. Well, if we have a moment here, boy, that's not very becoming. It's just a big. I don't even have an icon. Well, that's fun. All right. Well. All right. So I'm going to, in the interim here, I'm going to play the trailer for ThirdPhaseOfMoon's movie that's coming out on February 16th, entitled Countdown to Disclosure. And I have to tell you guys, it is an absolutely fantastic presentation. I'm not going to say too much about it because you guys will be delightfully surprised when you get into the thick and thin of this production. Incredible. absolutely incredible. There were points that my mouth was on the floor, I had to pick up my jaw, and it just pieced together a lot of what we were asking questions about. So please definitely check this out. It's on Venmo. I think you can pre-order it for $9.99 at the moment. And again, that's February 16th of this year that this will be released. So let's find that here real quick, and we'll pop that up and you guys can take a look. All right. Just because I'm here. All right. I'm in my Sunday dress, guys. I swear I combed my hair, but I didn't think anybody was going to see me. So, you know. All right. Without further ado, here we have the trailer for Countdown to Disclosure from Third Phase of Moon.
I think it's terrifying. I mean, this seems potentially like one of the biggest stories of my lifetime. And I don't care if it's about UFOs or whatever you call it. Something that we don't understand is getting very close to our military aircraft.
The technologies related to energy generation should come out first.
This hybrid aerospace underwater craft is able to basically generate an electromagnetic field.
It is President Trump's belief that the United States must remain as dominant in space as we are on land and sea and the air. And your charge is to see to that mission with the United States Space Force.
I mean, there were 3 people on my team assassinated, and I was almost killed.
With a lot of people that would like to know what's going on.
It's a matter of national security.
But apparently, just recovered are off-world vehicles not made on this Earth.
The president will respond to the subject the way they want them to. There's a black box with all the technologies that would give us a civilization that's sustainable, peaceful, etc., and that's been around for decades.
Everybody's asking the biggest question in the world. Are we alone?
Look, it's holding, it's installed out there.
The narrative that's being launched, which is a false narrative, is that we're not alone and that those civilizations are a threat. The problem is that the public has to be informed and involved.
It could be a brief statement saying, hallelujah, I'm finally vindicated.
I'm not completely convinced they're going to let this stay like it is.
But the people who are surrounding that level of our politicians and government are not told. Like the movie Independence Day, where Will say, let's go kick alien butt.
It's a fantastic movie, guys. Please go and check that out when it drops in February. So as we're waiting for Terry to return, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the content that we discuss here at Dark Hour Paranormal. Now, I understand that, we have a time limit here. We're on an hour and a half for various reasons. And I think this works to present a lot of the material that guests have to give us. But at the same time, there are often times that the material and information can come a little convoluted because, again, there's other things that you would more or less need to understand in respect to the foundation of the theory or concept. And we do try to cover that as well. So look at this not necessarily as the comprehensive, in-depth, every detail analysis of what's being discussed, but more a deeper gloss over of a concept that's being presented perhaps to some of you for the first time, the way that Terry is here. I'll be honest with you, as a recording engineer, and somebody who's been working with audio since the tender age of, I'd say probably 8 or 9 years old, I've always been fascinated by the idea that we could possibly remotely record using energy or mind influence or something like that. It's just something that I've always kind of held curious, but never really got anywhere with it. I never heard anybody who was able to do this. So when Terry reached out to me, I was very excited to really kind of pick his brain a little bit in respect to what he's presenting. Because again, if we are able to influence certain recording devices, whether it be digital or analog, with our thoughts, well, that would put a different spin on paranormal investigation and how we understand it. That being said, we'd kind of have to go back and rewrite, I think, some of the book on that approach, because we've always had the suspicion that it is possible for us to influence our environment unconsciously or subconsciously in one way, shape, or form. And perhaps some of the EVPs that we're capturing when we're out in the field are from us and not necessarily from other entities. Again, we go back into understanding how connected we are in respect to everything. And perhaps this connection is a bit more visceral than we even imagined. As time goes on, I think we're seeing more and more evidence build for that sort of case. So again, when we're looking at what Terry's doing, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic in its approach and its implications, but it's somebody that we give a voice to because you know what, he might just have something that he stumbled on, and perhaps there's somebody else on the other side of the globe who's discovered this as well. I'm curious too, because it's something that he claims to have, again, discovered on his own, not from reading books or practicing a certain meditation where this was the byproduct of that practice. It wasn't like that for Terry. And there are some of us who are so sensitive that we're able to essentially dip into some of these more esoteric pockets within ourselves, and it becomes an intuitive way of life, or something that we then incorporate into our everyday waking consciousness that might take somebody else a bit more time to explore and then perhaps even produce in the same way. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because there are people who have been here many times before. Maybe you've practiced this sort of technique in another life. I don't exactly know what it is, but I do observe that is the case in a lot of situations. So as we're sitting here waiting, and I know you guys loving hearing my voice and seeing my pretty face, I'm going to play a few things from Third Phase of Moon here. Well, we'll see how much time we have, to be honest with you, until Terry's return, because Third Phase of Moon has been crushing it lately, guys. And to be honest with you, I have never been more honored to be part of this team as I am at this moment here. It's been such a fantastic ride. Everybody on the panel, from the originals all the way to those who just joined, we've had a great time, and I really, really appreciate everybody's insight into every one of these shows that we get into. So what I'm going to play here is a little bit of the show from last night. And this is essentially a really curious UFO sighting here, taken by a gentleman who saw 6 individual objects moving in and out of the sun, or it was 3, and somehow we're just seeing the entrance and the exit, as Dr. J Radio Live had suggested. So I'm going to put this up, and we'll check this out real quick while we're waiting for Terry. And this, of course, is for those of you who haven't seen it. For those of you who have, thank you for being there, and consider it a review. It's a recapping. All right, guys, here we go. No matter what, the show goes on here at Dark Hour Paranormal. Also, real quick before I throw this on, I want to just give a quick shout out to Richie Giordano from GUFON. Commending his excellence in professionalism. Now, I know that there are points that he's not feeling great. During a show, he's starting to feel like his energy is going, gets dizzy, sometimes a headache, things along these lines, things that would stop any normal person and just say, hey, I'm going to step back and take a break. Rich just keeps going. And I wanted to verbally give him the thank you and the thumbs up for that, dude, because there's not a harder working handful of people here, and Rich is at the helm of that. Okay. Here we go, guys. Thanks for your patience. I really appreciate it. You never know what's going to happen here on the show, so we try to roll with every punch thrown.
Welcome back to Third Phase Moon. Blake Cousins here. We've got a special report for you today in regards to UFOs possibly harnessing the energy from the sun. Videos have been making the rounds lately, and we received one from George Rabb just moments ago in regards to this phenomenon We're showing you the video right now, and it's mind-boggling to understand the comprehension behind this. What's going on? We're getting some close-up shots of the anomalies. What is going on here? It's very bizarre because when we do a close-up shot, I'm slowing it down just a bit, you can see this plasmic UFO enter the sun and whip out on the other side. It's very bizarre because this doesn't look like any kind of conventional aircraft, nothing in our assets. Is this something interstellar, something close to the sun, something massive in size, possibly the size of planet Earth itself? This object is mega in whatever its structure is. It's hard to say what is the meta propulsion behind this technology. We've got the entire panel that's going to be joining us tonight. They're going to be chiming in with their thoughts in regards to this incredible video from George Rabb, including George, who captured this. He's going to give us a statement. Buckle up, everybody. This is Third Phase of Moon. So let's get it on and start it off with GUFON. What's your thoughts here, GUFON?
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, I appreciate this. This video's pretty interesting. So what I'm looking at now is, in the first part, an object that looks like a meteor heading into the sun, and then another object coming out. So one goes in at the top, like around the 11 o'clock position on the left, and then one comes out the bottom. Another one is leaving the sun. And this gentleman here who captured this says he has 3 videos here in 6 hours or something like that. He's never seen it before. And he watches the sun every day. So what we have here are objects entering the sun and objects leaving the sun, which I find very unnatural. I don't understand if we're actually seeing what we're seeing, or it is just an illusion of the sun itself. So when the objects are going into it, is it what we're seeing, or is it just because the sun is so bright that it's creating this effect that it looks like meteors leaving the sun and entering the sun? I know it sounds weird, but maybe it's just airplanes and it looks like they're coming out of the sun. But I can't explain the trails going in and the trails following the objects leaving the sun. To me, it's unnatural. I've seen this video now several times, and all I know is you can get a lot of strange anomalies with certain cameras in certain situations.
Now, it's interesting, and I do mention this in my part, but you know, at first when I saw this video, I thought maybe these objects were kind of floating in front of the sun, and we just weren't able to see it the way that we wanted to because of the light overwash or something like that. But as I watched this further, I mean, I can't explain those trails coming in and out. It really does look like it's entering that fiery body. What do you guys think?
Like focusing in on the sun or focusing in on something very bright. I wonder if this gentleman took video of a light bulb and maybe moved something towards it and see if it leaves the same effect of streaks following in or out of passing in front of a light bulb. I don't know, just something to think of, because if this is real and objects are going in and out of the sun like this, I want to know why, and we're being lied to. NASA knows about it, I guarantee it. And if this guy knows about it, who else knows about it? That's what we need to look into. Who else has the same information? That'll verify it. That'll give me a little peace of mind to know that the sun isn't being, I don't know, extracted of its energy that we need here on Earth. It's pretty wild stuff.
You know who I'd like to hear analyze this video? Area 503. I think he would do an excellent job looking over this. That would be awesome.
Interesting stuff. Absolutely great insight, Rich from GUFON. Appreciate that. Now let's take it out to Doc Skinner from 1028 Productions. What do you think of these anomalies, Doc?
So I'm looking at this video you guys sent me, which was filmed overlooking Mount Mitchell in North Carolina in the Appalachian Mountains. And it's pretty peculiar stuff. The first thing we see is an object flying into the sun. And my first thought would be, okay, it's a comet or something crashing into the sun. But as we move on forward, we see that these objects are actually leaving the sun and leaving a wake behind them of, I guess, sun stuff, and it is pulling it out as it ejects from the sun. Now, there's been many theories on something like this, where these craft are capable of entering the sun and gaining the energy from the sun to refuel their tanks or their batteries or whatever it is that flies their ships. And others have speculated that these objects are actually traveling in and out of the sun, because the sun, and this has been speculated, that the sun is actually a stargate. And people speculate that the fact that Egyptians and other cultures worship the sun, saying that it is a god, what if the sun is an actual stargate? Of course, we've never gone into it ourselves, but this is quite amazing footage. Like I said, the first image crashing in, you think, okay, it's a comet. But when they're ejecting...
Okay, wow. My mic wasn't on. Sorry about that. What I was going to say is it's very interesting that he brings up the idea that there might be some sort of portal or vortex in the center of the sun. Any of these crafts, whether they're driven by our guys or they're driven by extraterrestrials, would know that we couldn't follow them into this celestial body. They're flying right into a wall of fire. There's no way anybody can trail behind them. So what better place to have a clandestine meeting or a portal of sort, but in the center of something that we simply can't breach on our normal everyday walk, if you will. And that being said, if there is a portal or some sort of vortex at the center of the sun, does that reflect in the other celestial bodies we have here? I don't know. But guys, go ahead and check this out. It's a fantastic presentation from ThirdPhaseOfMoon. Again, everybody on the panel is there talking about this sighting. So please go and check it out. We do have Terrence back. Oh, we had Terrence back. Hopefully he'll rejoin us in just a moment here. Okay, wish I hadn't closed that out now. FFS, right, guys? FFS. All right. Well, here's what I'll do. I'll give Terrence another few minutes here and see where we're at. In the meantime, I will... Oh, there he is. I won't do anything. You ready? Here we go, guys. All right, Terrence. How you doing, brother? You are back.
I'm all right. It's on 11. So...
Okay, so we've got a little bit of time left to get into this. That's fine, because we have about 20 minutes left in the show as it is. But before we...
it lasts that long. Yeah.
What's that?
I doubt if it lasts that long, the battery, but anyway.
Okay.
It's really annoying. I mean, just all of it.
It's okay, man. We can always
go straight into it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the things like what we spoke about is the where you can hear a sound outside, say a door closing, So I could be mind voicing ectoplasm, because I wanted to say this just for your viewers. I'm very sorry about all this. It's just been really, chaotic tonight.
Don't worry, man.
So I can mind voice, and I'll say, obviously in my mind, ectoplasm, and a door will close, a car door, and it go like that, and it will come out ectoplasm, like that. And I thought, is this some sort of synchronicity thing going on? I mean, if I talk like this, people think, oh, come on, it can't be that, surely. But there seems to be, I mean, I've done EVPs where I've got floorboards in my kitchen, and I've walked about on the floorboards, and not really what I've been thinking about. I haven't really tried that out so much. Not because I'm, worried or it hasn't worked or anything like that, just because I haven't got around to it and doing so many other things. And there's definite EVP there, just from the sound of the floorboard. So it'd be, what shop did I go to yesterday or something, and it will say. And that happens quite often. So there's that side of things as well, where there's incidental sound, if you like, environmental sound. So I could be mind voicing and someone to come out. I'm not saying the person's come out because of that. It could use that car door sound, or it could use something else. Just me moving around, walking about on floorboards, and if I'm thinking ectoplasm, it would come out ectoplasm. So it seems to be forming the sound in some way. So there's that. What I wrote to you about, excuse me, it could be something like portal boom, where portals tend to make booms. People say that they hear booming sounds in the distance, something like that. It could be there's kind of, portal that's around me when I'm around within my aura. And that's kind of, transforming things, or just sound waves that come in. But I'm not sure, as I said with the example, someone goes out and there's a car door and it goes like that. But it does seem strange. And I thought, is it actually overlaying the sound? Is it using that available sound? Or is this kind of like, we're talking about witchcraft, spells, where you could do a witch, say, I don't just mean these modern witches, I mean like a real witch, a hereditary witch, if I can get my words out. And where it's now like a spell where you can mind voice something, and then something seems to reflect that in the environment. People start acting differently, and I've actually experienced some of that where I get days a bit similar like to tonight, where just everything just seems to be happening, people knocking on the door and this, that, and the other, just when you don't need it, and you have to sort of pull yourself out of that and start raising the vibration. So good things start to happen. It's almost like there's lots of spells going on around you. So I sort of look at that, it's a bit like a witch's cauldron, green like ectoplasm. So you put the ingredients in, and what comes out like a rabbit out of a hat, what you want it to happen. Only this is real witchcraft, which would make me something like a hereditary witch. And but I've noticed that now. That's, again, as I say, I'm thinking, is it overlaying the sound waves? Is it just kind of that was convenient sounds? But then I've heard, where there's been animals and stuff like that, and it said my name. So there could be a crow outside, and it's saying Terrence James, and things like that. So it's incredible the amount of sophistication. But as I say, it's kind of like nature. When we get synchronicities, sometimes it's just a coincidence. We tend to think, how's that happening? What's going on here? Especially if you get a few in a day. We've all experienced it, or you think of someone and they call you up, that kind of thing. So it's a bit like that. So it's almost like, as I say, like spells, where the ectoplasm is working out timing, what someone does at a certain time. And that goes back to when you look at live spirit box radios, because people say, well, how is it on that station? Someone says, hi, and then on the other station, someone says there, and then on another station, it might say something similar to someone's name. It's like, what's putting this all together? And it's the same thing with sound banks. When you look at applications, you think, well, that's a sound bank.
Right.
How is it, although it's randomized, how is this putting this together? Well, it's kind of similar like with spells. You'd say, well, if someone does a spell, what is it that's working it all out for that to happen? And of course, that's the same questions that I was asking, because it's happened so many times. I mean, I do it often. I'd get spirit rappings as well, so I can record me whistling. That's sort of going off in a different direction. But this actual thing, what I've noticed before, like with incidental sounds, like it could be a dog barking in the distance or someone coming out and opening and closing their car door or something like that. And when I'm actually mind voices, when I'm saying ectoplasm, and then I play the recording back, and there it is, ectoplasm, and louder because the bumps in the sound, if you like, have accentuated the vowels, the main points of the word of what you're saying, or words. Do you know what I think was happening with the battery is because the phone was overheating. Now I've put it by I've got a cool fan here, which I use for white noise. Actually, it's actually staying on 10, so that's good. So we've got a little bit of time.
That's good. Let me ask you a question here. Let's say I'm your average person who doesn't really dabble in some of the esoterics that we do. Is it possible for me to attain this sort of mastery in respect to the mind voicing EVPs? Could I do that with some discipline?
I think that, I mean, as again, 2 years, I've just been all over the shop, with doing this interview thing, phones cutting off and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I think, on a better day, I could actually say, well, this is how I did it. This is how, I got to that level, and people could try it out. But then again, I think really you might need to have, like with psychics, some mediums are average and some mediums are very good and that kind of thing. So it could be a bit like that. But again, it's one of those things that I've not had a chance to try many things out because I get agoraphobia, which means I can't get out that much. And so I've been kind of like a pressure cooker, because that's probably where a lot of my energy comes from. I'm very focused and I get really bad agoraphobia. But I do think that perhaps people can do it. I've heard similar where I've seen on YouTube, someone says something, they haven't noticed, and it's come out on the EVP. And it is known where EVP people that study all this have said, is it actually the person? I mean, there is actually spirits around, because I've done recording. It's been nothing I've been thinking of. Where I use I've got an Olympus VN recorder, and I use that, and it's like a phone. I mean, I can hear spirits. Oh, I don't like him. A spirit said about you recently, he seems all right, don't worry, and stuff like that. I mean, it really is like a phone. But there again, I'm used to what to listen out for. Someone else might just hear, sound. That's what's great about the DR60, because it's that bit louder. And really, the EVP shifter is a magnificent application. And it's really like, I mean, I haven't tried them all, but it's like the DR60 of the applications. Well, one more point. I'm just getting a bit confused because it's just gone down to 9. I don't want to, the battery to run out. I can actually use other applications as well, where there's no microphone at all. So it's just a phone application, and I'll imprint towards that. And again, so if I say, I don't know, whatever, table tipping or something like that, I mean, I use that word because it's got, table and tip, and it's quite loud, it stands out. Excuse me. And so I've done that with other applications, and it's actually worked the same as them, but not as clear and not as profoundly as what with the EVP shifter. So it's still there. I mean, I will hear it. I've been into EVP for 6 years now, and but it is quite clear. Someone else could hear it, but they'd have to be good at EVP. If it's someone who wasn't, I can't hear anything, and that'd be it. But yes, you can do this on other applications. The EVP shifter is absolutely phenomenal app. I mean, Keith Worden might think I don't like him, but I would be, look, he's got to get an award. We don't get on that well, but still, there's that. And so, yeah, I do think other people could do it, but it might be like with mediums, where some people trained to be a medium might get some sort of ability, but they're not as good as perhaps someone else who's just got a natural ability for whatever reason. Could be their background or their genetic makeup. Very quickly, going in, like with ETs, I've had UFO sightings. I don't want to go on too much about ETs because it's nothing official, and that's why I like to say entity terrestrials. And to be honest, when I've asked spirits, it's like we don't really know about that. They're not really connecting with it. They're not like saying, yeah, we're ETs or anything like that. But I have had major sightings with witnesses as well, where I've been like 10 of my mates up in Holloway Road in London, and we've seen these, 3 orange orbs come over. And right before, earlier, when I was with a girlfriend of mine, we'd seen one went over, and just as I was talking about it, these 3 came over in triangular formation. One time, I know I'm rushing it here, it's just I'm looking at the battery. One time I was going to see my father across London from South London to North London to see my dad. I was talking to him, just about other things, and on the way there, so I wasn't thinking about UFOs or anything like that. On the way there, I sat and had a cigarette, and a plane went through the clouds. And for some reason, I mean, the first sighting of the orange orbs that I'd seen were years before, a couple of years before, something like that. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if I'll see one of those orbs tonight. So anyway, on the way back, I stopped at North London bank of the Thames, not right on the, by the river on the bank of it, but, just on the benches there, overlooking the Thames. And in my mind's eye, I imagined a rocket coming down for some reason. Again, it was just like a stray thought. And imagine a rocket coming down in a flame, and it wouldn't be really like that. They would release just the nuclear part of the bomb, high up in the atmosphere. But anyway, and it was like an orange flame, and I thought, I wonder if they'd do one right in the middle of the Thames for good measure. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, from the south bank, boom! This really fast orange light came up.
Oh wow!
Went in front of a tower block, kind of slowed down, and then went up in the air and just stayed in the air and blinked on and off a few times, and then went. But the thing is, I mean, I thought, oh, is that someone with a firework or something like that? It does sort of go through your mind.
Right.
And it was just like the orange orbs before. So although sort of a light subject wanted it to be ET, you do sort of think, well, let's hold on a little bit here, because it might be, someone messing about or, trying to fake it. But then I thought, how would I know, when the plane went through the clouds on the way to see my father? What made me think, I wonder if I see one of them orbs tonight? No, it's not something you could miss. If you was seeing something like that, you'd see it a lot. So I just thought, it was almost like something saying, because my ex was pregnant at the time. She's my ex now, by the way, let everyone know. It was almost like they were saying, don't worry about nuclear bombs. It might have been on my mind somehow. We've got it in hand. Don't worry about that. When you've got a child on the way, you do think about things like that. And so yeah, that was another incident. So when this happened with the mind voice thing, straight away I thought are ETs involved, but I've had nothing specific of such. I've looked out my window loads of times at night, see if there's an orange orb. Nothing. And but then I've had other things where it's been like, too much to go into now, because there's more of a story behind it, where it has been kind of seemed to be, ET related. Yet when I've asked spirits about it, they've said, guardian angel, or they don't really sort of relate to ETs as much. And what I think, if it is ET related, let's just say theoretically it is, they are keeping themselves in the background, because although I would love to see a UFO land and some extraterrestrials get out, it might be too much. And I'm already under so much pressure with this. I'm being ignored left, right, and centre, because as soon as people see applications, they think, oh, it can't be. It's a bit like Jesus when he came to Jerusalem on a donkey, and all the people said, they wasn't expecting this. I was expecting someone in robes. That's a bit like where I am. I'm kind of like, I'm not on a donkey, but I'm like, in this situation where I'm just like everyone else. And it's like, but there'd be other phenomena with it. And it's like, well, there is, but you're not giving the guy a chance. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at with all this at the moment. I do think you could probably teach people this. And if you can, it'd be like a Pentecost kind of ability, where they had certain abilities. And I think it could eventually see through people. It'd be like seeing aura colors. And a lot of people ain't going to like that, because if you've got some medium, and as I spoke to you before, and they're doing, you're expecting an ectoplasmic phenomena seance, and all of a sudden you're going into a dark room, and where a guy could just as well be doing a ventriloquist act, and you're not seeing phenomena. Oh, there's a trumpet moving around. Well, it's like, yeah, but there's no light. I'm just having to take your word for it. But then you've got a situation where you're between the gullible. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm just saying the circumstances would happen. It's not very spirit friendly for everyone to believe. It's kind of like you're between the gullible, or just, oh yeah, they go along with that, and then people that won't believe anything. And I'm kind of like in the middle, where it's kind of like, oh, you know, if I went up to someone and said about mind voice, and they go, oh, I don't really believe in spiritualism. And the reason I don't believe in it is because you've got a lot of people saying about ectoplasmic phenomena, but then all the lights are out, and where it's meant to be a spirit voice, you know, an invisible spirit, you know, in the environment talking. No, it's the lights out, and you've basically got someone channeling, doing what could be, I'm not saying it is, like a ventriloquist act. So when someone like me comes along and says, look, I can do the real thing, I've looked at all that before, and it's like, bang, they're ignoring it. And the other reason I'm being ignored is obviously telepathy can see through people. So if you've got a situation where you could see aura colors, and you get someone come along and say, oh, yeah, this, that, and the other, and oh, they look real nice, and then you've got this guy who's into heavy metal, and although he's into heavy metal and you know, all that kind of, you know, music like I am, oh, he's bad, you know. Yeah, if you could see the aura, it's like, no, actually, he's all right, and it's this person who's making out they're all right who's not, because I can see the aura colors. And that is what people are frightened about with telepathy. And Ingo Swann actually mentioned it's because it plays on people's mind. Even mediums have said when they've been around people, oh, I feel like you might be able to read my mind. But as I say, the kind of telepathy, if where I'd see this going is not monitoring everyone like Big Brother, or it would be something like where, like a judiciary kind of system, where someone comes along, it's like, no, you're not what you're saying you are. You're trying to get this guy who's into heavy metal in trouble and saying he's this, that, and the other, when in fact it's you. And it's like, no, it's not. It's like, that's not what your aura colors are saying, mate. You know, that's what they're scared of. Is like, don't talk about the subject. And that's why they don't want it to go any further, because really what this represents, and psychic abilities represents being exceptional. And in this political climate and everything, it's all anti-exceptionalism. So it's, no, that's too exceptional. Everyone's got to be the same, and driving the frequencies lower. So you've got people at the top and everyone else. No one's exceptional. You know, if you're a really good guitarist, how dare you play a really good solo? It's like, why are you saying that? Well, because these other 100 people can't. And it's like, no, man, this is anti-exceptionalism. So in this political climate, when I'm sending out these posts, that's too good, and that might see through the fake news, and that's why I'm being ignored. Plus, there's a lot of mediums out there, and it's like, if you're coming along and you can do the real thing, it's like, don't like it, this is going to upset the apple cart, let's close him down, forget about it. And it's like, hey, this has happened in what you read in the Bible. I'm not saying all of that is true, but I figure some of it is. This has happened before, hasn't it, in history? So sorry.
No, that's
sorry
fine.
for the rant, but I'm just looking at the
fine.
battery here. Yeah.
Here's something that I always impart upon people who are in a similar situation as yourself. And, you know, you're sitting there, you're frustrated, you don't feel like people are hearing you, your information isn't being distributed and acknowledged the way that you feel that it should, because it deserves that. We have these abilities, and we come upon these certain discoveries internally for some of us throughout our lives. And these can be very extraordinary experiences, such as what you're telling us about here. That being said, at the moment that you discover this about yourself and you start cultivating it and understanding it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the world around you is ready yet. But it does mean, because what you have here in this extraordinary, speaking of extraordinary time period that we're living in, that you will have the ability, or there is the potential of having the ability, to present that in a way that people at large can understand. It just may not be the time yet. Now, that being said, never ever, and I don't know this is necessarily something that applies to you, but never ever give up that hope in the vision of how important it is to you, because in doing that,
it's a spirit, man.
You're going to attract the lessons. I'm using the word lessons loosely. The experiences that you are meant to experience, and having this particular set of attributes in this life. So for those, and again,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, I'm sorry, because I'm looking at the battery. I don't mean to cut in, but it's down to 4 now. So if it just goes off, then just wrap the show up, you know.
That's fine,
mate. The thing is, it's just like what you read in the Bible, where they, with Jesus, say, I mean, I know some people, I don't really believe in the Bible. But even so, it might be wisdom teachings that's come down through the ages, even if you look at it that way. That guy came along, but he wasn't, people was expecting, you know, this, all the bells and whistles kind of thing, and it wasn't. He was a man of the people. So I'm kind of in the same situation where I'm just like you guys. I'm not saying I'm a messiah or anything like that, but it could be, you know, apostolic abilities, you know, of Pentecost or something like that. But I'm trying to be genuine and reach out to people. But where people are thinking, oh, well, if this is ET contact, this would be something else. It'd be all the bells and whistles. It's like, no, don't forget, with Jesus the Messiah, when he came along, it was the same thing. He was saying about something. I was like, well, how comes this, that, and the other? And actually, he used to do miracles and say not to tell anyone, because the lesson was, and this is why I say, if ETs are involved, people have got to come to it. It's not going to be given to them. I've put the videos out there. I mean, that's good evidence enough for at least someone to say, look, I want to pop round, Terry, can we visit and do a few tests and maybe stay a couple of nights, you know, and do an investigation. But they're not. What they want is all the bells and whistles, that kind of thing, and it's not given in that way. So if you think, or anyone thinks, that there's ETs that's involved with, say, Scripture, the New Testament, if there was ETs involved with that behind the scenes, you can see the way they work. And the way they work, I mean, I know it's just a hypothesis, but if I can get me words, that it's a hypothesis. But the if that is real and that's how they work, then you can see that they're not going to choose someone where it's going to be, oh, he's got all this equipment around, oh, and he's already in a team of people, you know, at hand that will help improve this. It's usually made a struggle for the person, like with the saints, the early saints, and it's usually where the other person who's inquiring has got to make the effort. So when people see my video, they're not going to make the effort. Don't like telepathy. I don't want to be seen for it. It's like, see you later, forget it. You know, but if you're like, you can feel the spirit of it, and this is really good, and you put yourself out and you try, then that's the same thing. Just like what the early apostles were doing. It wasn't a magic show or anything like that that God put on. It was where it was people like Jesus. He was like a hybrid, you know, in a sense, born from a virgin. And so where people are thinking, well, this is, you know, we're not expecting this. We expected something else. It's, look, basically, and it goes for God or ETs or whatever's behind it, you know, the Godhead, let's say the Godhead, but it doesn't usually appear. Groundbreaking things don't usually appear. People like Vincent van Gogh, oh, he's crazy. Pizarro said he's either the craziest among us or he's a genius among us. It's usually from the, like, you know, from people that's in a situation like myself where the other person has to put the work in as well. You know, it's not me running about, or, you know, that kind of thing. The other person has to put they have to want it as well. And it's the same thing when you say, can other people do this? Well, they might be able to, but they've got to have the right heart attitude. If it's just going to be like the ugly sisters, you know, trying to squeeze themselves into Cinderella's slipper out of greed and all that, see you later, forget it. It won't work for you because you're on a different vibrational level. Anyway, look, this has gone down to 2%. So do you want to wrap the show?
Yeah, we'll wrap up the show here.
I'd tell you, I'm going to be really scared sort of after listening to it. Like, oh no, you know, after
don't
ranting
look
on like
that.
It's just so chaotic.
It's okay. Believe me, I understand the chaos of energy and how that swirls around us sometimes. It's just the nature of life.
I could see the look on your face when you was doing the UFO report. Oh no, you look like really awkward. But I mean, it's been the same for me here. Maybe it's better that it's been like that, because this interview isn't sort of all professional like the others. It's just, you know, a real person, me. And I'm saying to people, if you want to help me out with this, or, you know, someone in the UK, you know, pop round and visit and help me with this, put yourself out, put your heart into it to find out. If you're not,
there a way,
think that,
is there a way we can contact you that you'd be okay with the public, maybe an email address or something like that I can post in the description?
Yeah, we can do. We could do that after, and we could put it in the comments. So I could do that after the show. So if you want to wrap the show up, and it's been great talking to you. It's all Michael, isn't it?
It sure is, my friend.
On your Facebook, it's something else. But it's been great talking to you, and I'm sorry everyone for the, you know, it all being all over the place and everything like that. But I just wanted to, you know, get the basics. There's a lot more to this. Maybe we could do a part 2 sometime. And
of course,
I'd have everything set up better. You know,
yeah, that'd be more than open to do that, man. This has been fascinating. And again, as I mentioned during the quick hiatus that you had taken to charge your phone, you know, again, these are very deep concepts, and if you look at some of these shows, at least as an introduction to these, and then be able to either A, explore it on your own, or B, we'll have a follow-up and you'll be able to do the same. It's there. There's information to be looked at and, again, explored further. So thank you very much, Terry, for coming on the show today. I do appreciate your time and your inspiration. This has been fantastic. And I will close the show out now, but what I'll do is I'll get in touch with you a little bit later on. Go ahead and charge your phone up, and I'll shoot you a message in a little while here.
All right.
All right, brother.
Really
Thank
nice.
you very much.
Really cool. Thank you. All right.
Likewise.
Speak soon. Bye.
Absolutely. Cheers. All right, guys. Thank you very much for hanging in today. This was a very interesting show, to say the least, and for all the best reasons with the information that Terry was providing to us. I would like personally to follow up with him a little bit more, and I hope that he accepts my invitation to perhaps help him to secure some of these waveforms that he's recording, and then allow me to analyze them with a frequency analysis. That would be fantastic, and I think that we would learn a lot more and have some more insight into what he's presenting. That being said, February 16th, Third Phase of Moon is dropping. Countdown to disclosure. Please check it out. It's going to be awesome. As some of you have seen today, I do have the super chats enabled. Thank you very much for all of you to make that possible for me. And I want to thank my super chatters tonight or today that have contributed. And I'll be honest with you, I can't scroll all the way back, but I know I saw Long Island Bigfoot. I saw Mr. DB Cooper. And there was one more there, and I'm so sorry I can't see back far enough. And when I'm doing these interviews, I mean, that's my focus. But I really, really, really appreciate what you guys have donated today. And every penny of that goes back into the show. It's not just a line. It's what we do, because that's where it needs to go. So thank you very much. Let's see if I got everything. Tomorrow night, we're going to have Fernando on. We've been trying to do this show all week. I'm sorry for those of you who had been waiting in anticipation for this broadcast, but a series of events kept us having to move it forward another night and another night. And tomorrow night will be the night that we are going to do this. So please be there for that. We're going to talk about Luciferian concepts and the implications in our waking life, and how perhaps we misunderstand some of what Lucifer was or is in Fernando's point of view. And I believe I will have an extra guest, the name of which I will not say yet, just so that we can confirm. But right now we're looking at 90% sure he will be joining us as well. And it will be another interpretation of the material that we are presenting here on Dark Hour Paranormal. Once again, guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every one of you, and I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your evening. Stay magical, stay inquisitive, and ask questions. Cheerio, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Ciao. Also, check out GUFON tonight at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 7 o'clock Pacific.